This conference will now be recorded.
Permanent members.
Paul Varga, present.
Jesse Burnham, present.
Angie DeSanto, present.
Okay.
You want alternates or no?
Well, I'm gonna seat alternates. I'm going to seat Mr. McKenzie.
Hi, I'm present. Hugh McKenzie, present.
Thank you. Okay, as we go through this, since last time I had a hard time hearing, when we go through the motions and voting and stuff, I'd appreciate it if people would raise their hand and say their name. So I move to open nominations to fill a vacancy as a regular member of the Board of Finance until the next municipal election, the original term being 11/19/2019 to 11/18/2025. Does anybody have a motion?
I do. I do.
Who's aye?
Oh, Angie DeSanto.
Hi, Angie.
Of course, now I've forgotten her name. Christina Davis.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Is there a second to that?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Is there a second to Christina Davis? Is there a second to Christina Davis? Okay. No second for Christina Davis?
So who are the people that can second?
The board members that I seated.
The three board members,
The
So
five.
there are 5 board members that are here?
There's 5 seated. There's
right. And who
Jesse?
on this board tonight? Who on this board tonight can second that motion?
Any person that's seated.
So tonight, the people that are seated are Hugh, Judy, Paul, me. Is there anyone else?
Jesse.
Jesse Burnham.
Oh, and Jesse. And out of those, other than me, none of those people are saying yes to my nomination. Is that true?
I haven't heard a response to a second.
Interesting.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Don Kopek. That's Paul Varga.
That these so-called leaders, senators, get up and say stuff like this when they know.
Hugh McKenzie. I'd like to second that nomination.
Who seconded that?
Hugh McKenzie.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Are there any nominations? Are there any more nominations? Motion to close nominations to fill the vacancy as a regular member. Oh, excuse me, I go back. Does anybody want to have a discussion?
I'll move to close nominations, Paul Varga.
Jesse Burnham, I'd like to second closing nominations.
Who was that, Jesse?
Yes, I'd like to second closing nominations.
Thank you.
You know, people who brought a lot of noise, but not about anything. So that's why
Okay, motion to close the nominations to fill the vacancy as a regular member of the Board of Finance until the next municipal election, their original term being 11/19/2019 to 11/18/2025. Paul Varga,
I'll say, aye.
wait. Paul Varga moved and Jesse Burnham second. A motion to appoint John Kopek to fill a vacancy as a regular member of the Board of Finance until the next municipal election, the original term being 11/19/19 to 11/18/25. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
I have no idea why he has this fixation on the feminization of
Aye, Paul Varga.
Hugh McKenzie says aye.
because again, another bucket of just
Aye.
crazy. COVID is feminizing.
Any other ayes?
Tell that to Donald Trump. Okay.
Can somebody turn down their TV or background?
Yeah, the background television is really problematic.
How crazy it is out here.
Much better.
Okay, so are there any other ayes?
Did Jesse vote?
Jesse, you there?
Yes, this is Jesse, and I voted aye.
Okay. We had Hugh, I think, as an aye.
Correct. Yes, I voted aye.
Paul as an aye. And myself. Are there any nays?
Angie DeSanto, nay.
Motion passes with 5 ayes and 1 nay to appoint John Kopek to fill the vacancy as a regular member of the Board of Finance until the next municipal election, the original term being 11/19/19 to 11/18/2025. Yes, Valerie. You got to turn your mic on, please.
Valerie, you're muted.
Okay, I have Hugh McKenzie, Paul Varga, Judith Austin, and Jesse Burnham. That's 4.
And Hugh McKenzie.
Yeah, I already said him. Hugh McKenzie, Paul Varga, Judith Austin, and Jesse Burnham. That's 4 people.
I apologize. I correct myself.
Okay.
4.
All right.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay. Can I just ask another question while I've got your attention?
Sure.
You said Mr. McKenzie was to be seated for whom?
He is seated for Garth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Angie DeSanto.
Hi, Angie.
Hi. Are there any other alternates at tonight's meeting other than Hugh? I can't see everybody.
Christina's there.
So Christina was there.
Miss Davis, yes.
And Hugh was there tonight.
Correct.
Okay.
Who is caller 00?
I have no idea.
They don't have to identify themselves, Valerie, unless they're going to speak.
Oh.
And this is a special meeting, so all business is concluded.
Yeah, Valerie, I don't see anybody on my screen listed like that, so I don't know if that might be your screen. This is
No,
Paul.
It has a capital C with a green phone, and it says caller 00.
It's
That's
you,
just says,
Valerie.
that's Connecticut municipality is what
Oh,
we're seeing.
that
on the
might
screen.
be, yeah, that might be the
Okay,
facilitator.
okay.
No,
No?
Connecticut Municipality, I'm sorry, it's me. It's John Guskowski. I'll change my name. The caller is just a caller. If they did
Okay,
not,
so somebody just listening?
and they don't need to testify, they are not obliged to identify
Right.
them.
They don't have to identify themselves. That's correct, right? Okay, thank you. I just don't see it, so I was confused.
Okay.
Okay, so I call to adjourn the meeting, the special meeting,
Motion.
December 9th. I motion to close.
I'll make a motion to
Motion.
adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mackenzie.
Thank you. Mackenzie.
Oh, my mic was off.
You want to vote on that, Judy?
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know if I got them all.
Hey, John.
For
This
December 9th.
conference will now be recorded.
The meeting will come to order for December 9th at 7 o'clock. Do I have roll call?
Varga,
Angie DeSanto.
present.
Angie DeSanto.
Hugh Mackenzie, present.
Christina Davis, present.
Okay. Any other regular members? Alternates? Okay, seating of alternates. Hugh Mackenzie and Christina Davis.
Okay, I accept.
Who are you seating them for?
Christina?
Okay.
Wait just a minute. Is Hugh Mackenzie a regular member?
No, it's a seating of alternates. I only have 3 regular members. I have Ms. DeSanto, myself, Paul Varga. So I'm seating 2 alternates to make the 5-seated board, which is Christina Davis and Hugh Mackenzie.
So you're just seating them?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I have no communications. Item 4 is for the public comments, I guess, against those communications that I don't have. So we're moving to item 5. The minutes of November 18th, 2021 have been distributed to the board members. Are there any corrections to the minutes as written?
Oh boy, I have a whole bunch. Sorry, Judy. It's my fault because I did the minutes, so I gotta fix them, right?
That's all
That
right.
way, I'll send you the stuff. But so the first thing is under guests. Nobody noticed we called Catherine by Caroline, so we have to change it to Catherine Silversmith. Under public comments, there was a line about Cheryl Baker speaking about the schedule, and what we have in there is completely incorrect. and we should just remove it. Basically what she had said was that the November schedule has to be the way it is, the first and third Monday, because of the holiday, and the audit report having to be reviewed. So if we just strike what Miss Baker said out of the minutes, that would clean it up. And
Wait. Excuse me.
wait. Yep, go ahead.
On page 1, under public comments, it starts about Miss Davis.
Yep, go down further, Valerie, and
Okay.
the second.
All right, I see it.
Yep, it's fine. I'll send you what I have, and
All right.
I'll scan it and send it to you so you can see it.
All right.
Because I made a bunch of scribbles, and then on the top of the second page under new business, we put a period instead of a comma. That should be 430,000, not $430. And I was corrected by Cheryl that we cannot approve the audit, we just accept the audit. So under that same, in the next paragraph down, and also in the bolded items where it says a motion to approve, it should say accept. Then the next bolded item where it says Mr. Varga moved and Mr. Santos seconded a motion to add to the agenda for the next meeting under new business. It should say to fill the vacancy for a 6th regular member, and we put full-time. And then again, it's kind of semantics, but underneath agenda items for December 9th toward the bottom, it should say Board of Finance vacancy to appoint or for appointing, not election. Even though we vote, it's an appointing, up to an appointment. And I think that's it. Sorry, my bad. First time trying to go through them.
No, you did good.
I
Go ahead,
have,
Christine.
I have
Under
one
new business,
small,
Anybody else have any corrections?
under
I
new
have
business,
Two of you are competing.
I'm not, go ahead.
so I have one small correction and a question. Can I ask my question first?
Go ahead.
Is it preferable to, when we get the minutes, to email corrections rather than doing them in the meeting, or do they have to be done in the meeting?
So what we're discussing right now is the corrections, and then we're going to vote to approve the minutes with the corrections, so everybody's aware of the corrections.
So,
I understand that, but is it more
once
efficient?
I send you the minutes, Christina, once I send them out, any corrections have to be made in public so that it's part of the meeting, so the public knows that there was an error made. And some of these were just long name.
Okay, good. I just wanted
It's a valid question.
And then just a small thing, the full name, I double checked, of the auditors is King and Associates. We're missing the and.
There's no and. There's no and. It's King.
I'm looking at their website.
Well, I've been told before. Oh, shit. Give me a break.
The name of the firm is King and Associates. I also have a correction, please.
Sure.
Under new business, E, presentation and action on request by Board of Ed to utilize their unassigned fund. It should be their non-lapsing fund. They don't have an unassigned fund.
Could you tell me what page and what paragraph you're talking about? Because otherwise I can't get the correction down.
It's B, Valerie. Letter B. Under new business, B, on page 2.
Okay.
So that, and also the motion, utilize in their second motion to approve the request to utilize $18,707 from their Board of Ed non-lapsing fund.
I really don't see what you're talking about. It says Mr. Varga moved and Mr. Santos seconded a motion to approve where is the unassigned fund? Or I don't know where you're looking.
It's right there, Valerie. Just keep reading. To approve the request by BOE to utilize $18,707. And instead of their unassigned fund, it should be the Board of Ed non-lapsing fund.
It should be what now?
Board of Ed non-lapsing fund.
Non-lasting fund?
Lapsing, like it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Do we have any more corrections? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections of the regular Board of Finance meeting on November 18th, 2021? Paul, I'm just going to let you send the corrections instead of going through every single one of them.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And I'll move to accept as corrected.
We have a second?
I'll second that. Hugh
Who's
McKenzie.
that?
Hugh McKenzie.
All right.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Moving on to new business.
Judy,
Yes.
Judy, just a point of order, because we've had this question a couple of times on our agendas. Instead of saying motion passes, if it's a unanimous vote, I think the minutes ought to reflect that. Because if it just passes, that would mean there could have been somebody that objected or didn't vote. So the proper term is unanimous if it is.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, new business, selectmen's update.
Well, good evening, everybody, again. I'm going to make this brief, but I've got a couple of things I would like to say on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the town in general, is that congratulations to all of you folks that have recently been elected in November and that either new to the board or re-elected. What you do for the town is much appreciated, and we couldn't function properly without your efforts. And I know it's a dedicated effort. But sometimes I don't think people really realize how involved it is. But I'd like to publicly thank you. I just want to go over some things that I've talked to the Board of Selectmen about and some personal goals and whatever. But I've issued a goal to set up and put into effect our what we're calling hybrid meetings. This will actually mean that we will be opening the town office building so that boards, if they so choose, can meet at their regular sites. We also have approved funding to get an OWL probe, which is a unique camera that films everybody in the room. That is already on hand. We're working out the software right now with our suppliers. I know Cheryl is working on that. But our effort is to get this in place by the first week in January. Your members and the general public will have the option either to attend in person or to go through somewhat the same means that we're doing right now. So kind of looking forward to that. I know there's some people looking forward to seeing one another again. So we're working on that. Just a couple of notes of interest. We are researching the ARPA funding. And frankly, I've got mixed signals so far. One of the questions that I've run into that is if we have a particular item that whose costs exceed $20,000, because we have an ordinance in place in town that would have to go to a town meeting. We're actually seeking legal advice on that, and I'm also consulting with our Council of Governments and trying trying to get some clarification. Excuse me, and I'll get that clarified for you. I'd like to personally thank Paul and Judy and Cheryl and Chris on putting together the calendar for your budget. I know there were a number of hours behind the scenes that all of you folks worked on that, and I appreciate it. I am pleased, and I know I was a bit pushy and hopefully not over optimistic to make sure that our referendums coincide with the E.O. Smith referendum. We did that for years, and I understand some of the downsides about getting revenue statements from the state and coordination with different departments and everything. But the feedback I'm getting from the Board of Ed and from all the sources involved is that we're going to make this a team effort and try to bring this to reality so we can eliminate having to go to a minimum of two referendums and just do that with one. As you folks are probably aware, the cost of a referendum is in the area, and things are going up as we speak, of about $3,000. So if we could save that and put an effort for that, that's a goal that we have. I'd also intend on doing some future proposals to the Board of Finance. We are considering and fine tuning um, coming up with a new position to complement the finance office and also the town office building in general. We're working on sort of a hybrid. You folks had approved several years back a floating clerk position, but in reality, we're going to need somebody that's got more technical abilities to assist on the finance side and social media side. So I'll be informing your board in as near a future as possible of what our intention is on that and making a proposal to you. I'll also be bringing you a breakdown of where we are on our ARPA funding. Probably we're going to be setting up a public hearing for public input. If any of you folks or anyone you know has any suggestions on perhaps funding that you'd like to see happening with those funds, we're keeping a record of all of those suggestions at the Selectman's office. You can email them to us or even call them in. We prefer emails. But I'll be giving the Board of Finance an update on where we are on that. These are unedited funds, but I had Cheryl put together just a couple of figures. As you know, over the next over a 2-year period, we got about $1.2 million in American Relief monies. And right now we've dedicated expenditures of about a little over $6,500 in actual expenditures. We're proposing right now, and this is one of the things that we're working on other items that are, they include probably 8 or 9 items right now to date for an additional just under $17,000. So of the 600,000 plus we've already got in the bank, we've only actually identified or designated a little over $23,000. So that's a work in progress. I'll keep you focused on what we're doing on that. I just heard today, because we had our first, wasn't a major storm, but we had our trucks out with the Public Works Department, And I was somewhat concerned because my understanding is that none of our radios in any of our trucks are operable. And to me, that's a life and safety issue on a number of different bases. So we're going to bring in somebody to take a look at those. I hate to do a Band-Aid approach because one of the overall things we're looking at is getting all of the fire department, public works, and the Board of Ed buses and everything else on the same bands. But I might have to take some immediate emergency type action to get those truck radios in line and operable. I don't want our folks out there um, strictly dependent on their personal cell phones. I don't think that's right or safe. But other than that, that's all I have, Judy, for now. I'd be glad to take any questions if you have it. But again, thank you all for your efforts here on the Board of Finance.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Great, thank you. Am I correct? Did I see in the selectmen's minutes that we're that you've been authorized, or that the town's been authorized to take over the Cattle Rock properties? And if so, what's the impact on our town assets if that's the case?
Well, we in fact already have taken over that property. The quitclaim deed has been filed with the town clerk. We've taken measures to secure that property from anybody going on the property right now. We're going to be posting that property, but it is officially been transferred and is in the ownership of the town. We're going to be setting up probably some public hearings in the near future and working further on coming up with a plan of development for what the town would like to see the uses of that property becoming. We've also got town council who are working with EPA and DEEP for forgiveness of the liens that are on the property, or a mechanism to do that. And those are all other items, of course, at a future date we'll be clarifying with the Board of Finance.
Is there still environmental cleanup that has to be done on the property?
Yes, there is.
Do we know how much that's going to cost?
We had put in for a grant last year that was denied with administrative cost and the cleanup of about $275,000. That's being fine tuned, and we're looking at that. There is another round of grants coming up that we intend on applying for, and hopefully we'll be successful this time. Anything else? Thank you, folks.
Judy, you're muted.
Sorry,
Hello?
Linda. Next agenda item is report from the tax collector.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to come before your board tonight. I felt that since there are new board members and we're going into another budget season, that I just would like to do a brief overview of our activities for the 2021 fiscal year, and how we kind of project our percentages for the upcoming fiscal year, and also to address the auditor's overview of our outstanding taxes. So we did close our fiscal year on June 30th with a very good collection rate of 98.17% of our current levy. And as presented in the auditor's report on page 43 and 44, when you looked at the budgeted amounts as compared to what came in on prior year taxes, interest and lien fees, the supplemental taxes, and the miscellaneous, there was a variance of plus $143,583. And this was done virtually with no staffing. We have had some help in the office, but once we shut down from COVID, we did not put additional staff into the building. And more people use the online venue to the tune of 1,600,000 being paid online. And our doors were closed the entire time. So I feel like we accomplished a lot. And during that time, the governor deferred many of the motor vehicle registrations so that it did impact our interest rate somewhat. And we accepted and passed the deferral dates where people had till October 1 and April 1 instead of August 1 and February 1. These were all factors in collecting. And DMV also, starting in January of 2020, initiated 3-year registration periods, which means we do have a segment of population that likes to defer paying their taxes until they need to. So now that becomes a 3-year exercise instead of 2 years, which also means it's harder to track down our transient populations. But despite all of that, or despite those factors, we still use our 98% collection rate for a levy, and we had a very good collection year. And we still have the Cattle Rock property / now town of Ashford property to take those tax amounts off of our active asset list. So I will be coming to the Board of Finance to transfer the accounts from 2019 grand list and the 2020 off the active collections. And we're coming back to do tax sales again. That there was a moratorium on all the tax sales. And when I ran an analysis on that, many of these are vacant properties or they're properties where the owners are deceased and there's no one living there. That comes to close to another 200,000. So I just wanted that opportunity to give you that overview. And then if anybody wants any graphs or tables or further information, I would gladly provide it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gagné. Nice presentation and good work.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is the approval of the 2022 Board of Finance meeting calendar. Is there any discussion about the calendar? No. Do I have a motion? Oh, go ahead, Hugh.
Starting January 13th, will we be able to meet in person at the town office building, lower level meeting room 104?
I'm hoping to. Bill said he's going to be setting up that L camera. You know, whoever wants to meet in person can meet in person, and those that don't can tune in. Right, Bill?
I'd like
Yeah,
that.
Judy, through you, just to answer Hugh's question. That is our intention, Hugh. We plan on opening the town office building, and for those who want to attend in person and have that ability, the only thing that could postpone or delay that would be if our mechanical equipment is not set up. But that's what we're working at on a regular basis. We've got part of the equipment already in, and we're working on getting the computer end of it set up. But that is certainly our intention.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'd certainly prefer to meet in person. I just don't want to be the only person sitting there. That's all. Thank you.
You and I can look at each other.
That's good.
And what is the mask policy going to be for those that do opt to come in person?
Judy, through you, I'll answer that. We are keeping in place the mask mandate on all town-owned buildings, at this point. Um, we're closely monitoring our COVID situation, and unfortunately, we seem to be in a surge situation right now. Um, the last reporting that I saw from our health department, there was a 2-week period there that was monitored. We had 21 cases. I know that's increased from that already. The prior 2 weeks before that, we had 4. Um, the entire area seems to be going through a surge, and as long as that's the case, we're going to maintain the mandate on masks in um, all public buildings, all town-owned buildings. Excuse me.
Thank you, Bill.
Judy, can I just make sure I understand Bill correctly though? We're talking about hybrid meetings, so we'll have the option to come to the town hall, but you'll also have the option to log in remotely if you do not wish to be at the town hall. Is that correct?
Absolutely, that's correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. So,
Yep.
because it does actually matter to me too.
Do we have any other discussion about the 2022 Board of Finance meeting calendar?
Do you want a motion for that, or are we just looking at it?
Yes. Can somebody make a motion for the approval of the 2022 Board of Finance meeting calendar?
Angie
Motion.
DeSanto.
Thank you, Angie.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Hugh McKenzie.
Thank you, Hugh McKenzie. Next agenda item is
You
the
gotta
approval
vote.
of the.
Gotta vote. Gotta vote.
I'm sorry. So the motion to approve the Board of Finance meeting for 2022. Oh, geez. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Unanimous. The vote passes to approve the agenda 2022 Board of Finance meeting. The next agenda item is 2022 to 2023 budget calendar. Is there a motion to approve the 2022 to the 2023 budget calendar?
I'll move to approve it. Paul Varga. Sorry.
That's okay. Do I have a second?
Angie
Yeah, I will.
DeSanto, second.
Okay, great. Even better.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next line of business is choose a board member to be responsible for the FYE 21 annual report. So you guys know I spoke to Jesse. I don't know if anybody else is interested in doing the annual report, but he was glad to step up to it again under one condition, that we get the reports in before we approve budgets. So just letting you guys know that, because he said it in the past, it's hard for him to get the job done because everybody's, they're busy with the budgets and they're not thinking about the annual report, and then he has problems getting it together. So,
To
is
Jesse
there anybody else that's
and
interested?
Cheryl, it's in the letter that goes out that their annual report is supposed to come with their budget. So,
Right. But that, please make sure everyone knows that they should still turn in their budget figures even if their annual report isn't ready.
I have a question.
They can turn them in. We just, maybe we won't vote on it until, you know, we get the annual reports. There's got to be something to help him with his
I have a
struggle.
question.
But Angie, go
I have
ahead.
a question. Can you hear
Angie,
me?
go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Just-
Jesse, did you get any indication
He's
from
not here.
the different sections that had to, you know, send you their annual report thing? Did you get a sense of what was holding them back? Was it just procrastination? What is it? Procrastination? What is the word? Procrastination?
He's not at the
Angie-
meeting.
Angie, he's not here.
No, Jesse's not there?
No, he was in the first one, but he's at an event.
Okay, duh, okay. I just want to get a sense of why they were not coming through, you know, because there was nothing, you know, oh, well, I don't need to get there, or I have something going on. Okay.
Okay. Was there anybody else that was interested in doing it? Is there? No. No.
Do we need a vote on that? Does
I don't
anybody
think
know?
so. I don't think so. Right, Cheryl?
I say let Jesse's he's done a great job. I had to work with him for 2 of them on the fire department stuff. So I think he does a great job. So if he's willing to do it, let him run with it.
Okay. All right. So we'll appoint Jesse as the board member to be responsible for the FYE 21 annual report. The next agenda item is to appoint a Board of Finance representative to the Capital Projects Committee. Do we have anybody interested in joining that committee? Anybody?
Judy, if you want, I'll step up for that.
Was that Paul?
Paul, it's Paul.
Okay. Anybody else interested or no? Okay.
If Paul would keep me in the loop, I could, you know, be his alternate or something. If it ever got to the point of conflict.
They're usually, there's a few meetings, but that's good to know if we have somebody else that can back me up, just in case I am away. Bill, are you okay with that if that were to happen?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I do think with this one though, Judy, you ought to have a motion, just because it is sort of a formal committee. But no, I have no problem with that. I think it's always good to have a backup.
Okay. So we motion to appoint Board of Finance representative to the Capital Projects Committee. Do I have a motion?
I do.
Angie?
Yeah.
Was that you?
That's me.
Do we have a second? I'll second.
Okay, and just to clarify, the motion would be to appoint myself, Paul Varga, and Hugh McKenzie as a backup. Sorry about the dog.
Nope, that's okay.
Got to vote. Got to vote.
So, yep. So
Vote aye. Vote
motion
yes.
is.
You don't have to do that.
Everybody's in a hurry. All right.
Oh
That's
my
only because they
God.
don't want to be nominated. That's all. That's
Yeah, right. So those in favor of Paul Varga being the Board of Finance representative with the backup of Hugh McKenzie to the Capital Projects Committee. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Next item on the list is the Board of Finance non-lapsing fund.
Board of Education.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse
Board of
me,
Ed.
Board of Education. I have so many notes here, it's unbelievable. Okay, where is it? Okay, so we had a slight discussion about the Board of the Education non-lapsing fund last meeting. So at this time, we should be discussing if we're going to keep the discussion of transferring the 1% funds to the unassigned balance. Currently, those.
I think Angie, can you mute yourself because you're cutting into Judy and I'm having trouble hearing her.
Okay, can you hear me now, Valerie?
That's much better.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were going to have a discussion about the possible transfer of 1% from the unassigned fund balance to the
Judy,
Board of Ed non-lapsing fund. And
Judy,
currently, yes?
Judy, it's Bill Folletti.
Hi.
Can I suggest, I noticed that the school superintendent joined us just recently, and also Dina from the Board of Ed has been on with your meeting, but perhaps at a time you feel is appropriate, Greg could address that issue.
Oh, okay, thank you, Bill. Okay, Craig, we'll give you the floor. Nice to meet you, finally. Heard a lot about you, positive.
I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. We are very excited to be able to return these significant monies to the town, and we respectfully request that they be moved to the 1% non-lapsing fund. Due to proper use of our grants this year and an unexpected windfall from some ARP ESSER 1, 2, and 3 grants, we have a little bit of extra money this year. We're not always going to have this money, but we never know what expenses may come up in the future. It could be everything from a camera system to emergency repairs to our fire alarm system. So we would ask that the town put all of these funds into the non-lapsing fund. And of course, part 2, which I also see on the agenda, is to make a policy change to increase the size of the non-lapsing fund as per state statute from 1% to 2%. And this would give all towns in Connecticut, like Ashford, the opportunity to save for a rainy day, if you will, and to use those funds correctly to help improve the school system. So I'm open to questions. Dina Charzan, our business manager, is also on the call, but we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. So thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Keller? So a little history on the non-lapsing fund policy. Years ago, when I was first on the board, we didn't even have this fund. The fund was put in place to have a little cushion to do a little capital projects. And I remember we tried to keep that as fair as we could. And at this time, in this culture that we have this year with COVID and everything else, I'm a little hesitant to go to the 2%. I don't know how the board feels. If anybody has any comments about how they feel about moving it up to 2%.
Can I ask a couple questions, please?
Sure, go ahead, Hugh.
Is the non-lapsing fund currently at capacity? Is it at its full 1%?
Mr. Keller?
The answer to that, it's actually again, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 3% is the actual cap on the fund. Is that correct, Cheryl?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so
But what I mean is, it's currently at 1%. So at that current rate, is it at its maximum value for money?
but so the problem is it's actually a twofold question here. The first one is to move the funds. The second one is to change the policy. There's a couple. So the
Yeah, I
answer
think
to that part is no. It's not at its full capacity.
so. At 1%, whatever amount of money it could have, and how much money can the fund contain at 1%?
How much money this year?
If the fund is at 1%, yes, for this current year, how much money can it have at 1%?
So this year we're, so the first question of the possible transfer of funds, we were going to motion to transfer funds of $77,689 from the unassigned fund into the Board of Education non-lapsing fund.
Well, what I'm getting
That's-
at is, if the fund
That's
is
the
currently
1%.
full as it stands at 1%, if it's currently full or maxed out or whatever, can we transfer money to it? So what amount of money can the account have at 1%, and how much money does it have now?
Oh, Cheryl, you have it.
Oh, I don't have the budget in front of me, so I don't even know what.
Dina, do you have that number?
How about Dina, Mr. Tarzan?
I've read home many things, but not that.
I don't know how we could vote on it if we don't know these amounts.
Dina, do you have?
I don't have the town ordinance in front of me that shows how much can be in it, what it's actually capped at. So no, that would be a question better posed to Cheryl at this point. I know how much we can put into it, but how much you have a cap to that, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of what your cap is.
Yeah. The procedure, I believe, says 3%.
3%. Let me find out.
It's currently at 1%, right? But it can go to 3 by state statute, but in Ashford, it's currently 1%.
No. You're confusing two things, Hugh.
Okay.
Right. So they can put in, right now, they can put in 1% of their budgeted allotment. So whatever we budgeted them for fiscal year in 21, they can add 1% into the non-lapsing fund, and they can have up to 3% in the non-lapsing.
How much money is 1%?
Yeah,
What's the dollar?
77, whatever Judy just said. No,
1% would be 77,689
689.
Sorry, I lost my page.
from last year's allocation or budget allocation.
Has the money? Is there money still in the fund if it's a non-lapsing fund?
So every year, the Board of Finance votes on whether to put that money into the fund. So nothing since the audit. So we have to wait until the audit, and then after the audit, they can put up to 1%. So they don't generally have 1% left over at the end of the year. This year, they happen to have more because of all the reasons Mr. Kreller gave. So that money right now is in our unassigned fund balance and available to be moved if the Board of Finance chooses to.
Cheryl, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed last year that the Board of Finance didn't move the money or transfer the money from the unassigned fund until the non-lapsing fund until February.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason it has to be done tonight?
There is not.
Because they're also asking for a policy change, which I don't think should be and this is just me, I don't think that should be a one meeting, one night thing. I think that policy needs to be, that people need to know about it. and the board needs to think about it and have some discussion and see how the policy would actually be written. Because there's some things in the current policy that I know Jesse's not here, but we've talked about before. The last couple times the Board of Ed has come to the Board of Finance to use funds from the non-lapsing fund have not really met the criteria, although we have given them the money or release the funds, so to speak. The way that policy reads, it's supposed to be for items on their capital projects that are listed on their capital projects. The original intention of that policy and that fund is to allow the Board of Ed to kind of have a little bit more speed in getting some of their projects done. And I don't disagree with what we used it for. For instance, the security upgrades, those are things that are important, but we've kind of swayed away from the original intention. And I think that if that's going to happen, we need to talk about that over a couple of meetings or at least another one with a written policy. With you know, so and we have several members who aren't in attendance tonight who probably would have some input on that. That's my concern. So I guess if we don't need to do it tonight, maybe we can table it to the January meeting and have some discussion about it.
Because it would be very helpful for me to know some hard dollar and cents exact figures of what's currently in the fund and what the money Judy had discussed adding to the fund would do to the percentages and all that. I mean, percentages are kind of vague to me, and I'd like to know some exact figures concerning the current status of the fund.
Okay.
Can I just ask a point of clarification?
Excuse me.
I just.
Bill?
Yeah, Judy, I was just going to say, based on what I'm hearing, my suggestion would be to carry this on to your next agenda, and perhaps Dina and Craig can put something together a little more formal as to what they're requesting, and we can give Cheryl a little opportunity to put some figures together and disperse those before your next meeting. We've got a couple of new members I know that aren't familiar with this at all. I just think it would be beneficial at all and be more assuring that we're all on the same page and what we're trying to get accomplished.
Okay, I agree.
Can I just ask a question for clarification?
Christina, what was the question?
Can I? Yeah, so I just want to clarify again, just to underscore that this money that we're talking about was money that we voted on as a community to put in the education budget. It's not as if it's money that was allocated for some other expense. It is money that we as a community said we want this money to go to the schools. And what that non-lapsing fund says is we're going to keep that money that we've originally committed to as earmarked for the schools. Is my understanding correct?
So no, if the school doesn't use the money goes back to the town funds. So it goes back to the town. It goes
right,
back
but
to
we have this non-lapsing fund, and we have a policy that in historically that 1% of up to 1% of that education budget can go to this non-lapsing fund.
Correct, up to 1%.
And that is money that the community voted and said, this, you know, whatever that number is, what is it, 7 million approximately? You know, we approved $7 million for the town schools, and then up to 1% of that can stay in this non-lapsing fund.
So the school can have up to 1% of the funds if we voted on that, but the money goes back into the unassigned fund balance. The rest of the money, which is used for other things the town might need, you know, this is the taxpayers' dollars. So they go back into this fund and they can be used for capital projects. They can be used to defer taxes. They can be used for multiple things, not just the school.
Judy,
Yes.
I understand Christina's point, but I'm going to kind of make a counterpoint in that the other way that some people and taxpayers look at it as that the school over budgeted and therefore we overtaxed the town for funds that they didn't need to be taxed at. And that's why it's returned to the non-lapse, to the unassigned fund. Now, with the current situation with COVID and such, this is a very unique situation, which is why I agree with Bill that I think we need to have a little bit better numbers so people like you and everybody, myself, understands what the implications are, and then a good hard look at the policy and what the wording would look like if we were to change it so that they could have their what is now statutorily available, the 2%, which is what Mr. Kreller is asking for. I mean, the bottom line is we could vote tonight to do 1%, but I don't think that that's what everybody wants to do. So.
No.
I mean, I appreciate that counterpoint, Paul. I understand that's some people's perspective, but I'm just trying to also point out that when the taxpayers vote on the budget and they allocate, they agree to fund the schools to a certain level, there's a reason why that 1% fund exists, to retain some of those unexpended funds and preserve them for the school system. And the fact that we have been authorized by state statute to increase that to 2%, you know, deserves attention and real thought.
Mr. Kreller?
Yeah, I appreciate all the comment, and I don't think there's anything wrong with delaying to make an educated decision. I just want to clarify that it's not the fund that is 2%. You can put up to 2% of your current budget, which for us was $155,377.86. That would leave an additional $19,498.57. I put this in an email to the Board of Finance prior to the election, so some of you may have received it, some of the new members may have not. What we're asking for is exactly what Mr. Vargas said. We're asking for the Board of Finance to increase the amount to 2% and then to put the maximum that we're allowed by law, the $155,000, into that fund, because we are never again going to have a pandemic situation where we're going to have these types of grant funds. There was no over budgeting. We made correct use of our grant funds. The numbers that we presented in July did stand true through the audit process. We're proud of that fact. And I have no trouble with appearing again with you to justify those numbers, but we're not going to see an opportunity like this in the future. It's a good opportunity to max out the non-lapsing fund for a variety of purposes. It's the local Ashford policy that says it must be used for capital expenditures, but that's not how the statute reads. It can be used for a variety of things. That's your decision.
Thank you.
Judy, we can have further discussion, but I'll make a motion to table both items, the further discussion on the non-lapsing 1% and the policy change to the January 13th meeting. And then with that, if Mr. Kreller, and I can't pronounce her last name, so I'll just say Dina. I apologize.
I did the same thing.
Get some, just some hard numbers for people so that maybe they can, and I can also forward the email that Mr. Kreller sent pre-election. I didn't realize it was pre-election. I'm sorry, to the new members so they can read that as well. And maybe get the policies, both the statute and the policies are in there so people can have a little better understanding. So that's my motion.
That email was sent out on November 17th. It was after the election.
Was it? Okay. Well, anyway, my motion is to table it to the January 13th meeting, and we'll, with some clarification of numbers wise from the business office or the Board of Ed.
Second that.
Who was, okay.
Okay, thank you, guys.
You got to vote on it. You have to vote on the motion.
I am.
Okay.
I think she's trying to write.
I know, I'm a little bit slow. All those in favor to table?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, a discussion for the action of King and King, retaining them for 3 more years. So I'll give you my opinion first of the feeling I get from King and King, and then I'll ask everybody else if they have any remarks. But so far, I thought that King and King have been their reports have been very accurate. No red flags. I haven't seen anything, and most of you know I'm an auditor by profession. This was a very rough year coming up, and if we were to change the auditors this year, we'd have to bring them out to quote. It would be, it would take considerable amount of time and would distract us from our new board. I don't see any red flags as far as complacency. They haven't been with the town for that long. I think, Cheryl, has it been like 2 years? 3 years. But as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen any issues. I've been happy with them. Cheryl, have you been happy with the auditors?
Yes, I was happy with the last ones too, but these guys had 3 really rough years. We've had 3 really rough audits, so maybe they deserve.
Yeah, they helped us through some tough
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, really bad. So.
How about the school? And I'll do the same thing, Dina. I can't pronounce your last name.
Sorry, it's Charzan. What
Tarzan.
they have been very easy to work with, very thorough. They're really good at explaining things. And I have to say that this is the third school system that I've worked for, and they've all been relatively small towns like Ashford, and King and King has given us the attention and the ability to meet deadlines like I have not seen from other auditors. At this point in my last district, our audit was just barely getting started. So the fact that they come in so early and are so thorough and really take the time, I think it's definitely a plus.
Bill? Thank you, Dina.
Judy, through you, Dina, on these other school boards that you said you worked on, did they sign long-term agreements with these folks?
Yes, they were long-term agreements. They were 3-year contracts.
I'm just maybe I haven't negotiated a contract with an auditor in a while, but I'm a little surprised of them requesting a 3-year commitment.
They're not requesting a 3-year commitment. They've given us a price for 3 consecutive years, but they would do 1 year at a time.
So up until this point, we've had a 1-year contract with them?
No, initially we had a 3-year contract.
We did. Okay.
Mhm.
So
All right.
Cheryl, can I clarify then? Because it does say in the agenda for 3 more years. So I think that's why there's some confusion, including on my part. So that information on the cost is just a breakdown, but that's not I haven't seen a contract. So they're just looking for a 1-year commitment. Is that accurate?
1 at a time would be correct, yes.
So that really should say, it says for 3, but we can make it a 1-year commitment. We don't have to commit to 3 years.
That's correct. You don't actually have to appoint them until May, but we would need a price before then, so.
Right. And then if we went out to RFP, that's where the delay comes in. As
correct.
Right,
And
as Judy pointed out, we would be doing that while we're doing budgets, and I don't know that we're ready to tackle that. And I've been on both sides of the table now, both on the public side and the Board of Finance side with King and King in place, and I thought they've done a pretty good job through some pretty rough times, including listening to me. So.
So do we have a price from them, or are we waiting for a price?
Oh my God.
Do you want to explain that, Cheryl?
Yeah, so they did give us a price, but unless it would be inappropriate to say what the pricing is in a public forum, because if we go out to RFP, then it would not, it would give others an unfair advantage. So they have given us a price, but if we're not going out to RFP, we won't share that.
Bill?
Can you give your opinion, Cheryl, just generally, if it's a reasonable price?
I thought it was reasonable.
Bill?
Thank you.
Two quick things. If somebody wanted to look at what we paid them in the past, they can go into our annual reports, and that's part of the public record. But, and I don't have a vote on this, I'm just adding my 2 cents. I'd prefer not to commit for more than 1 year at a time. And if that's that's all they're looking for, then I'd be comfortable with the board considering that. I mean, I certainly have no objections, and I think they have a high quality of work that they've done for us, and performance-wise and time-wise. But my personal opinion, I'm reluctant to make a long-term agreement with an auditor. Don't take offense, Judy.
Careful there, Bill.
No, I just find it funny. When the 3-year conversation came up, is there a benefit, some kind of benefit or discount, Cheryl, that we would get? If we were to go 3-year instead of 1 year, is there some kind of plus for us?
I don't believe so. Other than we'd know for 3 years what we were going to pay right up front.
Yeah, future budgeting.
So would it be, I guess the word is prudent to ask them to make sure we clarify with them that they're not looking for a 3-year commitment in that breakdown that they provided?
They are not asking for a 3-year commitment.
Oh, okay.
So
you want a motion on that, Judy, then for 1 year?
I was going to say, do we want to move on the 1 year?
Associates for 1 year? I'll make a motion that we retain King and King and Associates for 1 additional year, which would be 22, 23, if I'm correct. Or is that 21, 22?
21, 22.
21, 22.
Auditing 21, 22.
21, 22, right.
But we're going into budgeting for 22,
20. That's why I was
confused. The annual report for 2021, so.
I'll second that. Hugh McKenzie.
Thank you, Hugh.
Excuse me, could I ask a question?
Go ahead.
You're going to approve them for 1 year, and what is the year?
2021 to 2022, right, Cheryl?
She's muted. Okay.
Are we ready to move? Oh, I got to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion moves unanimously. I hate that word. Okay, next agenda item is the discussion and action, review July through December 3rd expenditures and revenues. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Cheryl, did you see anything that stood out to you with the expenditures and revenues?
No. 5 months worth.
I think I only had the one question which you answered for me for the Board of Finance, and it was the auditors. That hasn't been split up yet between the Board of Finance and the school. Does anybody have any questions?
You asked the same question I was going to ask of Cheryl, so that one got answered.
Yeah, I appreciate Cheryl putting this together for us. I know for me, taking a fresh look at this, and particularly we've got new members going into a budget season, I think you can get a flavor of things just by trying. And I know you're not going to memorize every line item and everything, but I think it's good prep and homework in preparing going into a budget season, just to familiarize yourself with the line items and budgetary issues. So I thank you, Cheryl, for putting this together. I think it's very helpful.
Thank you, Cheryl.
There was one item that I had a question about.
Who's speaking?
It's Christina.
Okay.
So on page 8 of expenditures, for DPW, it looks like DPW equipment parts, it's over 157% of budget, looks like $11,500 more than expected. Do you know why that is?
Equipment parts, I don't know specifically, no, but I do know, well, Bill can probably answer better. There have been a lot of repairs, but I don't know specifically which vehicles.
Yeah, we've had several of our major equipment that have had to go through some major repairs. And as a general note, we usually allow that, and Cheryl, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we allow them to run over in a particular line item as long as they give us a heads up on that. And then adjustments are done at the end of the year. But as a general speaking, those are for emergency repairs to keep our equipment and vehicles on the road. I don't know the specific nature of the breakdown of those right now, but we could probably get you that answer if you'd like it.
Yeah, I think, as a new member, I just looked for stuff that looked like it was more. But overall, correct me if I'm wrong, the overall spending, it looks like it's, it's trending in where it should be, right?
No, Christina, your questions are certainly not out of line, and that questions are the only way that we all learn and work together on this thing. So don't ever be apprehensive about asking a question, please.
Oh, I'm not. Don't worry.
Okay.
And and it might be for both Cheryl and Bill. The transfer station is still running a little high, but have we seen a slowdown overall? I know in the beginning of the COVID mess, it really picked up and hit hard. And it looks like they're still running a little high. So
Yeah, and we did increase, 2 years
Yeah, we
running,
did.
we did increase the budgeted amount. So it's still there's still a lot of activity at the transfer station.
Yeah, and you know, I've only been in my role a little over 2 weeks now, but I'm told that since things started lightening up with COVID, um, our action down there was increasing too. Now, this latest surge and what happens, I have no idea what the effect is, but I
Well,
will tell
let's
you. Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Paul.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, I mean, the other things is, you know, the material, everything is going up as well, you know, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's not just the people bringing the stuff to the transfer station. There's other stuff that's increasing behind the scenes that's going to affect that. It's just, I know last year it was a target item, I guess, and it looks like that might be the same this year. So
Yeah, I am working with our public works director, and we're looking at some potential cost savings down there that we may implement, and I'll have a report for the Board of Finance on that as soon as possible. I think we may be able to tailor some of our expenses down there, uh, but certain things have to fall in line in order to do that.
thank you, Bill. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Bill.
So I'm sorry, but what does COVID have to do with the transfer station? I don't get the connection.
So when COVID started, we noticed a real increase when people were staying home. They had time to clean out the garage and their their sheds and their neighbor's garage, and so yeah, we had a huge increase in usage at the transfer station.
Is there any more discussion on the expenditures and revenues? Questions? Okay. Next agenda item is the second opportunity for the public to comment. Does anybody from the public have any comments? Hi, Linda. Sorry.
I'd like to speak as a member of the public and not as a tax collector. While the discussion was going on over the unexpended education funds, I brought up the state statute 10-248A, and it does say not to exceed 2% of the total budgeted appropriation, and it is to be used only for educational purposes. And I just wanted to make a comment about the historical background on that state statute. Having spent 10 years on the Board of Ed and working with Dick Butler and 2 other superintendents, this fund was not in existence. And the interesting thing was, and in 93 to 2003, the computers were not as prevalent as they are now. And towards the end of any fiscal year, you tried to come up with the best estimate of what was going to be left. And we also had a 5-year capital improvement piece in our budget in those days. And that fund, if we could turn over an excess, we did it happily, because there might be times that you had to come to the board and you could be short because of unanticipated placements or whatever. But you also tried to get those capital improvements in that always seemed to be hard to do because the buildings always suffered. You know, the painting that had to be done, the rugs that needed replacement, etc. So when this state statute came into place, I think starting with 2011, it was an opportunity to have a good relationship with the Board of Finance, Board of Ed, saying, hey, we haven't spent this money, we're turning it over, and we ask that 1%, you know, be put into this reserve fund. Now it's up to 2%. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Very much. Any other comments? Okay, agenda items for January 13th, 2022, regular meeting. We tabled the Board of Education non-lapsing fund. We can have a further discussion at that meeting on the possible transfer of funds from the unassigned balance, fund balance, and a discussion of the possible BOE non-lapsing fund policy change. Maybe we can have a little bit more information gathered by then to pass out.
I know it'll only be the next day, but we might have an idea how many departments actually got their budget in on time. Cheryl's giving me a glare.
You might want to put your budget policy on your next agenda too.
Thank you. I'm sure there'll be other stuff.
Paul, when do we get a tour of what is in the background of your space there?
What's that?
I want to know, is that Paul Newman? Who is that? That's
Yes,
right above
it
your
is
head.
Paul Newman.
Oh.
Yes, it is Paul Newman.
Well, one of these days I want a full tour.
Okay. You have to talk to my wife about it. She's in charge of the tour.
I come there for the tour. I just want you to point.
Oh. Well, Paul Newman, well, we can discuss it after the meeting.
Right. So do we have any other agenda items that anybody's interested in adding for the next regular meeting besides what we spoke about, the policy and the non-lapsing fund? Okay. Remarks for the good of the board. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, safe holidays. I thank you for your patience while I fumble through getting used to this new job. And I really appreciate all your support.
I want
Thank
to
you,
say,
Judy.
yeah, thanks to everybody, and thank you to Cheryl and Linda and Bill and Judy and Valerie. I apologize for forgetting to include you in on some of the emails. I'll try to do a little bit better. And Mr. Kreller, nice to meet you. Finally, at least I can put a name to a face now. And Merry Christmas to everybody. And be
Don't
safe
forget
during the holidays.
Christina.
Well, yeah, Christine's
Mary,
not here, but yeah, I better include her because she'll call me anyway, right? How about everybody upstairs in that, basically in that building, and Sherry too. So, and Karen. See, how about the whole building? It's been a little bit of a rough transition just to learn all the stuff that has to happen, but we're getting there. So, thank you.
Thank you, folks. Good night. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
This conference will now be recorded.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Hugh McKenzie.
Who moved? Who made the motion to adjourn?
Mr. McKenzie.
Okay.
And I believe Paul seconded it.
Yep, I seconded it.
Okay.
Paul Varga.
Bye.
Pleasure meeting you, Craig. Mr.
You too. Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I wanted to thank Paul as well for the accurate comments, and Linda as well on the non-lapsing fund. Just an FYI, there's currently $111,000 in the non-lapsing fund as per Cheryl's email. So we can talk about that in January.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Hey, John, can I have 2 minutes? I'll talk, or a minute, and tell Christine. Oh, she left. Oh, there she is.
I'm still here.
It's Paul Newman,
You can stop
and
recording.
he was the founder of the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp.
Oh yeah,
which is
I know.
on 44. Okay,
I
that camp is based on the movie he was in.
Paul, can I
by
interrupt?
the same name.
Paul, can I interrupt? Did we have a motion and everybody
yes,
voted and now the meeting's over?
Yep.
Yes, we did.
Yep.
All in
Yep.
favor? Aye.
I'll vote in the affirmative to adjourn.
I think
Aye.
it got covered up by people jumping off the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
All the
So now we
public
can stop.
people.
Now we
Yeah,
can
you
stop
can stop
recording.
recording,
Thank you,
John.
John. John.